Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast. I'm your host, Mandi Rose. I'm a holistic health coach with a passion to help others find balance in their life. My belief is that we can indulge in the amazing things life has to offer, like champagne, but still stay healthy using holistic approaches. Tune in each Wednesday to hear interviews with unique holistic entrepreneurs, learn practical tips on finding balance in your life, and get all the behind-the-scenes details of what I do to navigate my own health journey. Nothing is off limits in this series, so grab your shot of wheatgrass or your glass of champagne and prepare to upgrade your life and start healing. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast. I am so excited to be back. It has been way overdue. So this will be season 2, very similar to last season. I'll be interviewing some really great holistic practitioners, doctors, experts on different fields. We're going to talk about things in the holistic health space while we're drinking our wheatgrass, and we are going to talk about some fun, exciting things like relationships and sex and money and hot topics while we drink our champagne. So everything will pretty much be the same. If you guys haven't listened to season 1, feel free to go back. We had some really good episodes that I'm still obsessed with and listen to over and over again. The only thing that's going to be pretty different is I don't have my co-podcaster Kathleen with me. Unfortunately, she has decided to go a different route and she's doing some really amazing creative things. So keep in touch with her. So you're just going to hear my voice. So for those of you who have not listened to season 1 and you're a new listener for season 2, welcome. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Mandi Rose. I'm a holistic health coach, and I'm also a certified personal trainer, and I specialize in fitness nutrition. That is really my passion. I love helping people figure out the piece of the puzzle that is missing for their health. We look at everything from nutrition, physical health, we look at mental health, relationships in your life, maybe your environment. I also like to dive into spirituality and energy medicine. So I'm really passionate about just kind of figuring out how each person can find balance, which is the premise of this podcast, Wheatgrass and Champagne, but also figure out what is the unique combination for your life and what might be missing. I am also a licensed cosmetologist, so I currently work for European Wax Center. I've been with them almost 7 years, so I do body waxing. I am a hairstylist as well, so do hair and makeup for events, extensions, spray tanning. So I love to say that I make people feel beautiful on the inside and the outside. I'm also a certified life coach, which is just something I love to learn about. I got a bachelor in psychology when I went to college, and I just always have been very fascinated with the mind and how we are able to control our mind, control our thoughts, our self-limiting beliefs, and really helping people get out of the patterns in their life that we are stuck in. So, like I always say, we are not just physical beings. We are mental and spiritual. We have a soul. So I'm into all the woo-woo things and energy medicine. So astrology and crystals and doing inner child work. So you'll hear us talk a lot about these different topics on this podcast. I always say to my clients, figure out what works for you. Not everyone is going to think crystals work. Not everyone's going to believe in essential oils or homeopathic medicine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't find the recipe for you. So we have many different modalities that we can look at and heal the body. So I just love to meet everyone where they're at, and I hope to educate, inspire, entertain. We're going to have some hilarious episodes. Laughing is the best medicine. So at the beginning of every episode, I will tell you guys if it is a wheatgrass or a champagne episode. Today, we are going to start with the year 2019 for me, the hardest year of my life. Absolutely difficult, devastating, inspiring, life-changing, all the things. And if you listen to season 1, you heard me probably talk a lot about it, but kind of all broken up. So in each episode, I was just giving a little bit of updates on my health, but I never really got to go deep. So that is what I plan on doing today. It'll be a little emotional for sure. It is absolutely starting off as a wheatgrass episode. and then it will turn into a champagne episode. So this will be a 2-part episode. The first one, I'm going to talk about my health journey, what happened, different doctors I saw, different testing I done, and how I'm doing now. And part 2 is going to be the sticky relationship devastation ship that I had to go through. If you've been following me on social media and Instagram through my whole health journey, I'm sure that you've noticed a lot in my life has changed in the last year. So stay tuned. This is the story from A to Z. As I am recording this, I am sitting in my bedroom on the floor in my comfiest pajamas with some really good hot lemon balm tea and a power shake filled with wheatgrass and barley grass and all of that. So if you have wheatgrass or a green drink, grab it and listen to this episode. It's still very difficult to talk about. It brings up a lot of trauma and triggers me because even to this day, if I get a little achy or sore muscles or get a little bit of a fever, I immediately go back to a year ago when this was all going on and I start freaking out and wondering, is it going to get bad again? Have I not healed? So you might hear my voice shake a little bit or me stumble a little bit, but like I said, I'm going to be raw and real and just give it exactly how it happened. So let's go back to actually 2018. 2018 over the summer was the healthiest I had been in a very long time in my life. I had been taking birth control from the age of 14 until I was about 23 years old. I started taking it because I would get really bad migraines, and like most women, our hormones are off even at a young age, and birth control regulates that. I did not know at the time that birth control depletes our nutrients, it wreaks havoc on our gut, it can do a lot of damage over time. So, of course, I came off of it at 23 and within a year had I had gotten diagnosed by a doctor with low thyroid and was put on medication. I knew that something else had to be wrong, and I went to a functional medicine doctor and she diagnosed me with Hashimoto's. If you're not familiar with that, it is an autoimmune disorder of your thyroid, your body essentially attacking your thyroid. I immediately became gluten-free at 24 years old. This was almost 10 years ago, so gluten-free was very difficult to do back then, and all the food tasted like crap, but it helped me. And I just continued living my life as a 20-some-year-old girl, drinking, partying, hanging out with my friends, doing all the things that a normal 20-some-year-old does, not caring about their health. And I just kept taking my medication every single morning. Then when I turned 30, I realized and made a decision that I no longer wanted to take thyroid medication every single day for the rest of my life, and I was determined to heal and repair my body. I worked with my doctor, who's absolutely amazing, and I said, I am going to follow this protocol. I ate very clean, I took a bunch of nutrition and supplements, and worked on healing and repairing my body, and it took about 14 months total. 9 of those months, I was almost on an AIP completely clean diet. So no grains at all, no dairy, no soy, no sugar, no alcohol, no processed foods. I mean, I ate very, very clean with no cheat days. There was no cheat. So if we went out to eat, I brought my lunchbox, I cooked at home, I took my supplements every single day on a regular basis, very, very disciplined life. And I was still working 2 jobs at the time. So it worked, which was amazing. I got off my thyroid medication. I was feeling good. Now, over the course of the years, I had also been diagnosed with celiac disease, which is why I was gluten-free for so long. So that was kind of the last piece of the puzzle for me. It wasn't that I necessarily wanted to start eating gluten again. I just did not want to be fearful when I went out to a restaurant that I was going to accidentally get gluten. So with the amazing help of my holistic doctor, Dr. Dana McGrady, she helped me heal my gut and take Biomedic. I don't know, I've talked about it a lot, but it helps detox out glyphosate and heal and repair the gut lining. And I was with her at a convention in the summer of 2018, sitting right next to her, and I ate something called couscous. I did not know couscous was gluten until I ate it and said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Why have I not had this before? And I thought, have I not had this because maybe I'm not supposed to have this? And I quickly Googled it and noticed it was gluten-based. So I looked over at Dr. Dana and I was like, and she's like, you're going to be fine. You're totally going to be fine. You've healed. You've done so much work. You're going to be fine. And guess what? I was totally fine. So that was the summer of 2018. Healthy, fit, I was working out a lot. I had decreased my workload, working only one job, so stress was very much alleviated. And I was in the middle of planning a Euro trip across Europe with 10 of my closest friends and family to go visit my family in Europe, and we had a jam-packed schedule. Everyone kept telling me, you're doing too much, you're overloading yourself, but I am a Virgo, a planner, and a go-getter. So I just went forward and said I can handle it. And you know what? On the trip, I did pretty darn good. I prepared my body by doing a lot of workouts to handle the backpack carrying and the stairs and the physical aspect. But I also brought all my supplements and vitamins. I took them regularly. I ate pretty clean. Of course, I indulged in champagne when we went to Champagne, France, and having wine and sugar, things that I don't normally eat. But I thought, you know what? We're on vacation. It's only 2 weeks. It can't be that bad. Towards the end of the vacation, I had become extremely stressed out. I was dissatisfied with everything going on around me. Now looking back, I feel like I was starting the process of what spiritually we call the dark night of the soul. I was literally being broken down in so many ways. I felt overwhelmed. I felt unappreciated. I felt like I had done so much for everyone else. And then my physical health started to deteriorate very quickly. Everyone had gotten a cold on the trip. I was one of the last ones to get it. And we got home after the 2.5 weeks, and my body just completely fell apart. And that's really where I want to start this health journey story. I came back from Europe. I went for a workout, which I probably shouldn't have done. I probably should have rested. And immediately following the workout, I had a terrible anxiety attack. My left arm went numb and was tingling. I couldn't stay calm. I felt dizzy. I felt lightheaded. I felt nauseous, and immediately thought, oh my gosh, am I having a heart attack? Like, I've had anxiety before my whole life, but never to this extreme. So I went to urgent care. They tested everything, said I was fine. It's probably just my thyroid. Just rest and relax. But I just knew, and all I kept telling my husband was something is off, something is off, something is off. And the anxiety got worse and worse and worse. And it turned into me not sleeping. I didn't eat. I lost almost 15 pounds within 2 months. So that was extremely scary. I don't have a lot of extra body fat, so it was very scary to see my muscle wasting away. I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't work out. I was very fatigued. I had no energy. Of course, without eating a lot, you don't have a lot of energy to do other things. And I just kept suppressing it. I kept trying to go on with my life, pretending I was fine. But inside, I just knew something was wrong. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And after about a month, I was just crying all the time. I couldn't fall asleep because I was afraid if I fell asleep, I wouldn't wake up again. As a health coach, I was thinking in my head, what is wrong? What can I do? And just nothing made sense. So when I couldn't hold it together anymore, I called my friend and amazing health coach, Tyler Vaughn. She's actually the one that helped me heal my autoimmune disorder a couple years prior. So I know that she would have some answers for me. And she immediately told me to call Dr. Dana. Like I said, Dr. Dana and I were friends for about 1.5 years prior to this. She had helped me and was familiar with my autoimmune and healing my gut. So I was scared to actually call her, which sounds ridiculous, but this is a huge lesson I've learned through all of this, is I needed to learn to ask for help. So I was terrified to call her that day and say, I need your help, but I knew I had to do it. I had no other options at that point. I was so low. And at this point, my symptoms were so spread out that anyone I told about the symptoms, they were confused. I mean, from head to toe, everything was wrong. I could just start listing the symptoms and it would be headache, neck pain, sinus pressure. I would have my spine felt like it was on fire. I couldn't walk. I had weakness in my legs. My stomach had this sharp shooting pain all the time. I was nauseous. I wasn't sleeping. My skin was dry and irritated. I couldn't hear sounds. I'd be very anxious and irritable. My nervous system was on overdrive. I could just go on and on and on with the symptoms. So I went to Dr. Dana. She is a doctor of Oriental medicine. she does bioenergetic scanning. So for someone who's not familiar with bioenergetic scanning, it is a machine with a copper bar that you hold in one hand, an electrode that is then placed on the other hand. And she will input different frequencies and find the imbalance in the body where the circuit does not complete through the body and the copper bar and the electrode. I know it's very sciencey, but essentially there is hundreds of frequencies she can check, anything from organ systems, emotional, different specific bacteria, virus, parasites, cancers. I mean, it's amazing, and I wish that it was more easily available for everyone because it's less invasive than blood work and it's more immediate. So I love that. So on her machine, the first diagnosis that we had come up with based on all my symptoms was I had parasites, I had gut bacteria imbalance, I had Epstein Barr virus, which I have never had mono, so I don't know how the heck and where the heck Epstein Barr virus came up. I had heavy metal toxicity. I had obviously emotional stress. Candida. So for those of you who don't know what candida is, it's like a yeast overgrowth. For many women, it starts as a yeast infection, but it can become systemic in the entire body. I had that. And then I was also tested positive for botulism bacteria. So honest, open confession, I had gotten Botox done a few times before this all went down. One of them was before our Europe trip. And I had done it, like I said, when I was healing for my autoimmune disorder. I never had any reactions. I still healed and got off my medication. So I just assumed it was fine and my body had no problem with it. But now I was testing positive for botulism in my body. And from what I understand is it ruins your gut health. And when it ruins your gut health, all these other bacterial, viral, parasites and things can latch on and just wreak havoc. So lesson learned, I will no longer be doing that, and I do not recommend it for anyone else, especially if you have pre-existing health conditions or toxic overload of any sort, whether it's mercury, amalgams in your mouth, breast implants, other things that are increasing your toxic load. Do not add botulism to your body. That's just my personal opinion, lesson learned the hard way. So when all of this was going on, I also had detected some cardiovascular issues and blood issues, and this had really freaked me out. My family has a history of blood clots and deep vein thrombosis and things like that. So I immediately wanted to know if I had clots or maybe that's why I was dizzy or whatnot was going on. So the next thing I did was a thermography scan. If you don't know what a thermography scan, it is incredible. They use an infrared camera to scan your body from the outside. You are completely naked in a dark room. They use an infrared camera and can see everything going on in the body. It is actually able to pick up and detect breast cancer about 10 years before a mammogram can. So I think that's very cool and important for women to know that that is an option. It also can detect blood clots in the body, organ systems, inflammation, toxicity, lymph nodes, all these kind of things. So that was the next step for me. And I was so scared. I had to drive across the state of Florida to go get it done from Dr. Dana's good friend. And the entire car ride there, I was just crying, shaking, scared to know what the answer would be. My husband drove me, and I just remember it was like driving to like doomsday. Even though I knew I needed the answers, I was just so scared all the time, just in a constant anxiety attack, constant fear. I was just a shell of a human at this point, without eating, without sleeping, not knowing what was wrong, terrified, super, super low. So I went and got the thermography scan. It showed a lot of what we had already known, lots of pain, lots of inflammation. It showed all of my lymph nodes completely swollen, the lymph nodes in my neck, in my armpits, in the breast tissue, in the center of my body, even the groin. Every lymph node was fire red and swollen, which was kind of scary, indicating some sort of infection in the body. My mouth and my head showed a lot of inflammation, and we realized that the mercury in my fillings were leaking. So I was getting some form of mercury poisoning, and I needed to get those removed. I'd probably got them done, when you're like 12, 13 years old, you get fillings, and they use silver fillings back in the day. So these were almost 20-year-old teeth fillings. So I all started to piece the puzzle together of what could be wrong with me. So At that point, we now knew what was wrong. We had gotten some homeopathic medicine, some supplements, some things that would help improve my symptoms, but it just never really got any better. And bless my friend Tara DeTaco. She's a gut health coach, absolutely amazing woman. She saw me at an event and just knew I was lost. I needed help. I was low. I was trying to put on that brave face when I went to work. I was trying to pretend like everything was fine, but inside I felt like I was drowning. I felt like something or someone was just pulling me underwater, and I was just kicking and fighting all day long to stay afloat, or I was going to go down. And she had suggested I go see a chiropractor by the name of Dr. Levitt. This man is a genius, and I say genius like with a grain of salt, because he's even more than that. He's very intuitive. He could tell what was wrong with my body without me even sharing anything. He does chiropractic care, kinesiology, muscle testing. He does acupuncture. He knows so much about holistic health that he actually went back to get a nursing degree just out of pure boredom and wanting to know more about the human body. So I felt very safe and trusted in his care. So he had done some acupuncture on me. He told me some supplements to do. We muscle tested me for different foods and supplements and things that I was currently taking, if they were working, and what I needed to do next. So by this point, we are looking at December. I guess I never really told you guys the timeline. The summer is when I felt really healthy. September, October is when we went to Europe. I came back mid-October. Mid-November is when I reached out to Dr. Dana. Now we are in mid-December, shortly before the holidays. And at this point, things were just getting worse. I was on a liquid-only diet, pureeing all my food. I could not eat any solid food at all. My gut health was so bad, I wasn't digesting anything. The anxiety was so bad, I would eat and just feel like I was sick. So I was on a pure liquid diet, drinking a lot of bone broth, like I said, pureeing all my food, and I just felt so weak, just an emotional mess. I tried to journal. I didn't feel like it. I tried to stretch. Everything hurt. It was just the worst. And going through the holidays, I just felt defeated. I love Christmas. It's my favorite holiday. We had a Christmas party at my house, which was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to enjoy time with my friends and my family. I was the hostess, but inside I just felt so depressed, scared. I couldn't eat what other people were eating. Drinking alcohol was just not an option at that point, and I just felt so skinny and just not myself. So I got through that and the rest of the holidays as best as I could, but it just did not feel right. My next hope was Dr. Nairi. She is an osteopath. She can practice conventional medicine and functional medicine. And she helped a really good friend of mine with Lyme disease and helping her overcome it and keeping her very healthy and vibrant even to this day. So not only can she do all the different forms of medicine, but she is also a shaman, which was my first experience into energy healing and energy medicine. So I knew I wanted an appointment with her, but it was the holidays and it was going to take me 45 days for my first appointment with her. So I just said to myself, you have to make it. You have to make it 45 days. You can do this. You can do this. And so I just spent a lot of time on my couch without any friends. At this time, a lot of my friends either thought I would be fine and I'd figure it out like I always have. Some people questioned me. They thought I was going crazy. I had a lot of people tell me it's just anxiety, you're freaking yourself out, it's nothing. People doubting me, people talking about me, people writing me comments like, oh, you're so skinny, you need to eat some food. So just a lot of like negativity and emotional trauma that was going on at the same time. I felt like no one really believed me. No one really understood me. People weren't coming over to check up on me, maybe like one or two friends here and there, but I just wasn't the fun girl anymore. That was a big part of my life. I like to plan events and plan nights out with friends and have people over and be very social. And so I realized when I stopped being the ringleader, stopped being the one to plan everything, my world had nothing left in it. Even my husband at this time was questioning me, was getting frustrated. His birthday came around and he went out with friends, and I just was physically not capable of getting off the couch. So it was a very emotionally traumatizing time while my physical body was simply just decaying. So I had to make it those 45 days until I could go see Dr. Nairi. And my first appointment with her, I was so scared. This had been going on now almost 3 months, and I just wanted answers. I felt like I'd been doing everything that I possibly could, and nothing was working. So my first appointment with her, she looked right at me and she said, "You need to stop everything you're doing." And I was like, "What?" I'm a Virgo. Like, I function well with detail and plans and structure. Tell me what to do and I will do it. That's all I need from you. Tell me what supplements to take. Tell me what to do, when to do it, what tests to take. Like, let's go. And she was like, "Nope, your soul is tired." And I'll never forget the way that she literally looked into my eyes and said, "Your soul is tired." And I just broke down crying because that's how I felt. Like I said before, this dark night of the soul was happening to me. And I will do a completely another episode, maybe with Dr. Nairi, on dark night of the soul and what that means and how to navigate it and everything on the more emotional and spiritual side. But when she said that, I was like, damn, you're right. I've always been there for everyone, for my parents, my friends, my family, like everyone. I've always been the go-to person. And right now, I couldn't be that for anyone. I couldn't even be it for myself. So that's what she told me to do. We then did about 30 vials of blood. Took me about a month to get all 30 vials completed because of how weak my body was. Like I said, I'd lost 15 pounds. I wasn't eating very much. So we spaced out the 30 vials and we checked me for everything. I'm talking about 1,000-panel blood work check. Anything from all the different organ systems, lung function, kidney function, liver function, blood cell count, immune system, all different cancers, all different autoimmune disorders. I mean, you name it, we checked it. Genetic mutations. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, the pages just go on and on and on. So it was great to know all these things about me, but I was also terrified for every result, right? So it took about a couple weeks to get them back. And the day I went into her office to get those results, I felt like she was just going to tell me I had cancer or that it was something so terrible, because at this point, nothing was getting better. I was spending every single day from December, January, February at this point, home alone on my couch. And I was incapable of listening to music at this point. Could not hear any sounds. That drove me so crazy. Couldn't talk on the phone because I didn't have the mental capacity to hold a conversation. I could not read or write. I became very dyslexic. I could not drive a car because it was like the timing and the reaction was like too fast for my brain to process. I could not walk at this point. I'd get up and my legs would feel so weak, like they were giving out on me. I couldn't even really cook my own food. I had no appetite. I wasn't sleeping. It was awful. I literally spent most days home alone while my husband worked on the couch, counting down the minutes until he would come home and I wouldn't have to be alone again. I would hold the phone in my hand. And this is like so embarrassing and so real. I would hold my cell phone in my hand all day long. I would not go to the bathroom without it. I wouldn't walk into another room without it. I wouldn't sit outside without it because I was so terrified that at any moment I would have to call 911. That's how scared I was because I did not know what was wrong with me. And it made no sense for someone as healthy as I am, who's doing all the right things. So I was just terrified. So that's kind of where I was at when I got this blood work back. And when we got the blood work back, it kind of said all the things that we already knew. Parasites, Epstein Barr virus, some heavy metals, Candida was high, but nothing alarming, nothing no cancer, no new autoimmune disorders. I wasn't even testing for the thyroid issue that I had my whole life. That wasn't even coming up. My liver and kidneys and everything was functioning perfectly. So it just didn't make sense. It absolutely made no sense. And instead of just accepting it and saying it was anxiety and that I would start taking Xanax, I said, no, there is got to be a root cause. I will not take Xanax the rest of my life. I'm not going to go on an anti-anxiety medication. Something is wrong. This is not normal. This is not how people should live. So, let's see here. At that point, I did do a live blood cell analysis, which is also something a lot of people are unfamiliar of. What they do is they prick your finger and take your blood right out of your finger and put it under a microscope. So a microbiologist will analyze your blood, how it's forming, how it's clotting, how it's moving. It was so interesting to see it in real time. It showed that I had mineral deficiencies, so I needed to start taking more minerals. Obviously, it showed parasites, viral load. It showed that I had stress and dehydration, all the things that we'd already known. So it was kind of cool to see all of that. The next thing that I did start doing was IV therapy because I was nutritionally deficient, mineral deficient. So I started getting IVs with Dr. Nairi about once every 2 weeks, which was really great. As soon as I would get a bag of IV, a Myers cocktail with B, C, D, selenium, magnesium, all sorts of good stuff, I would feel so great for about 3 or 4 days, which was amazing just to have these little pockets of relief, just like these little moments where I kind of started to feel like, hey, there's hope, my body's healing. And then, of course, everything would come crashing down all over again. I was too scared to even exercise at this point. I would start working out if my heart rate went above maybe 70 beats per minute. I immediately started freaking out, having anxiety. So exercise just wasn't really an option. And that is such a great way for people to relieve stress. It's a great way for me to feel strong and empowered. That's why I love working out. So to get that all completely ripped away from me and not know what brings me joy or what I could do to feel good or feel happy for a moment was also a challenge. I also started doing ozone therapy. Absolutely love ozone. I swear at this point, even though we did not know the last piece of the puzzle, which I'll share with you momentarily, ozone, I believe, was my lifesaver. It is the one thing that I swear allowed me to heal. And the fact that we started doing it immediately probably saved me, honestly. Ozone therapy, for those of you who don't know, it was created by Tesla over 100 years ago, and it is when they take your blood and oxygenate it with O3. So air we breathe is O2. They use a machine to add an extra molecule of oxygen to make it O3. They take about 30 cc's of your blood out of your body, infuse it with oxygen into a saline IV bag, and then re-inject it into your body. And the purpose of ozone is it's able to kill any pathogenic material, bacteria, virus, parasites, heavy metals, mold, cancer even. It is used for cancer patients. So for instance, if you have cervical cancer, they can actually put O3, the oxygen in its pure form, into the vagina near the cervix and help heal the cancerous cells in that area. So for me, I started with putting it in my nose and my ears, where I was having most of my symptoms: swollen lymph nodes, headaches, dizziness, lightheadedness, all the head symptoms I was having. So we started very, very, very slow with ozone because you don't want to do too much and kill all this in your body and then have a very bad detox reaction. So I want to pause for a moment and just kind of talk a little bit about the detox reaction process. For any of you that are currently going on a healing journey, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. When you are detoxing from mold or heavy metals, parasites, viruses, whatever, these things are actually hidden and stored in our tissues, in our organs like the brain, the lungs, liver. And that's because our bodies are really smart. And when these pathogens get into our bloodstream, our blood becomes unstable. And so it dumps it into the tissues to hide it and get rid of it. We store these things for a really long time. So when you're going through a detox, what is actually happening is you are provoking them to come out of the tissues into the bloodstream, where it is then filtered out through the kidneys, the liver, So what happens is you go through this crazy detox reaction and you're just not sure if it's because of the therapy or because you're getting worse. And it's so scary for someone who's already dealing with anxiety and fear and feeling terrible for so long. And then you go through like this period where it gets worse for a couple days. It's just terrifying. So I always try to relate it to my clients. Like, imagine your body is going to war. Remember those old war scenes? There would be bombs going off and gunfire and dust and soldiers running around everywhere. And it's like chaos and havoc. And then when it's all said and done, it just looks like a bomb had went off in a war zone and devastation and rubble. That is what happens to our body when we go through detox reactions. So we provoke these things out of the tissues, goes into the bloodstream, and it releases this inflammatory response into the body. Our white blood cells go up, our natural killer cells come out. You have all these fighters that come out and just wreak havoc and killing and removing all the pathogens. And that feels so terrible. Detox reactions can really be from gut health issues. So like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. You can have skin issues. I would get rashes all over my face, rashes all over my body, hives in places that like were so unfamiliar. You can get mental issues from anxiety, depression, paranoia. You can get like dyslexia and brain fog. There were mornings I would wake up and have so much fatigue that I couldn't even open my eyes. Like I'd open my eyes and just want to go right back to sleep. I slept 15, 16 hours at a time sometimes, which was really scary. A lot of emotional purging after my ozone treatments. I would cry and cry and cry. I would think the world was against me. It just felt like I hit like ultimate lows. A lot of the times my organs would hurt so bad. So like my liver, as I was detoxing stuff out, I would get this sharp shooting pain under my right rib cage, all around where my liver was. As these pathogens and yeast would then get released from the tissues, it would just create more of an infection sometimes. But the nice thing with a detox is every time you go through that process, you hit an ultimate low. But then when it fades after 2-3 days, it's like the sun comes back out and the birds are singing and you just feel lifted, like you're just bumped up a little bit higher. And luckily for me, my doctors were so amazing and could always gauge when I was ready for that next detox. So they would put me through a detox. And then about 2 weeks later, after I kind of built up my stamina and was like ready for the next round mentally, we would do the next detox. So whether it was an ozone treatment, changing my homeopathic tinctures, taking more supplements that I was ready for the next dose of. And it's a very fine balancing act. You know, you want to hurry up the healing and rush and get back to normal. But at the same time, you can't rush your body because no one wants to live in this constant state of detoxing. It's not fun. It's scary. And emotionally, you just cannot handle it. So it's about like letting your body recover and then hitting the next round. And that is what takes so long to get through one of these health crises. So, like I said, I kept digging. Now we're into March. And I just felt like that blood work that I'd gotten back, even though it was 1,000 tests, none of them really gave me the answers I was looking for. And as a health coach, I started learning more and more about mold and heavy metals through Dr. Jess. If you don't follow Dr. Jess on Instagram, she's amazing, Dr. Jess Petras. I wanted an appointment with her. And again, it was going to be 2 months before I got an appointment. So I signed up right away in February, and my appointment with her was in the beginning of April. I wanted to get a mold test done. It is something that kept popping up on my radar, something I kept thinking about, researching, reading. Mold poisoning, mold poisoning, mold poisoning. It just made sense. Every symptom that I had aligned with mold toxicity. I just had that intuition. Something else was wrong, something that they weren't testing in my blood. So I ended up doing the mycotox test from Great Plains Labs and the organic acids test from Great Plains Labs, along with their heavy metal hair test analysis. Now, these tests get shipped directly to your house. Your insurance does not cover them. Like most of my doctors, my insurance did not cover any of them. So that is the struggle with going the holistic route. My blood work and stuff like that would be covered, but as far as like the actual appointments and IVs and things like that, supplements, nope, all out of pocket at this point. So that was definitely a strain on my marriage. So when I got these tests back, they sent them to your house. They're a urine test. You send it back to the lab. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get them back. And I got them back just in time for my appointment with Dr. Jess. And she is actually out of California. I live in Florida. So we did a virtual consult and it confirmed everything that I had thought at this point. I had mold poisoning and arsenic poisoning. I think I mentioned earlier that the mercury in my teeth was leaking, so we expected mercury to be a lot higher. It was still a factor, but the arsenic was a shock to all of us. Where was I getting arsenic? And why was it in my body? So that was really, really scary. And another piece of the puzzle I had to figure out. But the mold made so much sense. And when we got those results, I'll never forget the first doctor, like I said, my good friend, Dr. Dana McGrady, saw the results and said to me, "Oh my gosh, I am shocked with results like that you weren't having seizures." And all I could say back was, I felt like at any moment I was going to. That's how bad it was at that time. So it made so much sense. For instance, one of the worst types of mold that you could have is Aspergillus, black mold. In the body, the score on the test went from 0 to 20. Mine came back as a 50. So over double what the test even says is the max in the human body. 2 other types of mold had also come back pretty high. One was myelinic acid, which is the type of mold that they use in medication to suppress the immune system when a patient gets a new organ. So for instance, if someone gets like a kidney transplant or a lung transplant, they give them a medication to suppress their immune system so that their body does not reject the new organ. That is the type of mold that I had in my body. So it shows how much my immune system was completely wrecked. And the last kind actually came from food-based mold. So either in the grains, fermented alcohols, there's so many different ways that we can get mold in our food supply. It's insane. And that's why I do believe nowadays that almost everyone has mold in their body. So it's something I work with my clients on, is detoxing mold with or without a test. I assume we all have it in some sense. And there's simple, easy ways that you can help eliminate it from the body on a regular basis. But I detract from the point. As soon as I found out I had mold, it was time to start doing some heavy detoxing. I had purchased an infrared sauna back in December. So I had been doing sauna sessions regularly for 3 months. Also something I believe that was saving me. It was not making me better, but it was saving me from getting worse. And looking back, even though, like I said, from November until at this point, April, I was not getting better. Some points I was getting worse, but I was, thank God, doing all the things that I knew that would stabilize me. So I was doing nutrition therapy, homeopathics, supplements, the IV at this point, the ozone therapy, tinctures from my doctor. I was doing chiropractic and acupuncture, infrared saunaing, some stretching and yoga. I was doing journaling for my mental health. I was seeing a counselor that was helping me with the mental health aspect of my anxiety. I was getting regular massages, lymphatic massages, to help those swollen lymph nodes get out of my body. I was doing Reiki, which, if you're not familiar with Reiki, it's energy healing with my doctor, who is the shaman, clearing energy and stored trauma from my childhood, really working on that deep, energetic, spiritual component to my health. I had done past life regression therapy, trying to figure out where this was all coming from, maybe from a past life. I mean, you guys, I dug deep. I was willing to do it all, and it was a full-time job. I would wake up in the morning, start my routine, do all the things I could do, rest, relax. I was still working 3 days a week. It was just my saving grace to get out of the house and try to feel normal for a minute. But most of my days, 100%, were revolved around saving myself. It was totally scary. I couldn't go anywhere alone. Even for a walk around the block, couldn't do it alone. I was too scared. My legs would give out very easily. Going for a walk just 3 houses down and back was exhausting for me. I had no muscle mass at this point, no energy to even make my own food. Like I said, I didn't even listen to music. So one of the biggest questions I've been asked since I have gotten through this healing journey is what my diet looked like. And that is such a difficult part of the healing journey, is not being able to enjoy really many foods that you really love. We all go to like ice cream and pizza and these feel good foods, a glass of champagne or our favorite cocktail. When you're on a journey like this, you get none of that. You better find joy in something else, because unless you really, really love broccoli, you're not going to find many things that you truly love. There's a way that you can make recipes, of course, that taste good and delicious. But for me, I was so serious about my healing that I was not willing to compromise or cheat on anything. So from October of 2018 until about August of 2019, so a solid 8-9 months, my diet was so clean, organic. It was no dairy, no soy, no eggs, no sugar, no processed food, no alcohol, and nothing that was inflammatory. So things like tomatoes or different types of vegetables that can be inflammatory. It was very clean. I started out with the pureeing. Like I said, I pureed almost all of my food for a really long time. There were even points kind of when I was detoxing and I would hit a new low. Like when I got to Europe with all the stress of the traveling, I had to go back on like a pureed diet of soups and things like that. But yeah, no cheats. I remember the first piece of chocolate I had after 8 months. It was amazing. I remember my first glass of alcohol. That was really scary. I didn't know how my body was going to react. That was in August. I remember the first time I had sugar with my cousin Helena. I had some Zuckerwatte, which is cotton candy in Germany. And it just got to a point where I was like, you know what? One night of sugar is not going to kill me. I needed to get over it. And that mental roadblock of reintroducing foods into my life was a whole nother challenge. Of course, the exercise, the movement, all those things were a challenge, but the emotional trauma of food and recovering from that was so difficult. I mean, just not being afraid of food again. And I remember I had butter. It was like my intro into dairy. I had butter, just a little bit on bread. And it was like the biggest deal in the world. So kind of reintroducing foods and getting back to normal is a slow process for someone who takes healing as dramatic and serious as I do. So yes, my diet for about 8 months was the cleanest, most purest possible way that you could eat and sustain the body, along with a plethora of supplements. I think on a daily basis, I was taking about 10 to 15 supplements a day. So that was also a huge task every single day to remember. And every time I had a meal, I would have to take a supplement in midday. And then on top of that, you had your homeopathic remedies that you can't take around the time that you have food. So again, from AM to PM, every single day was just a very structured protocol. And just adding the food in there was just another component to all of the healing. Now we're getting into April, and this is kind of the part where everything changed. I knew I had mold. We had to figure out where it was coming from. So we thought maybe in Europe, when I was on the trip, that it was coming from a hotel or something like that. But the obvious option was to get our home tested. So we spent almost $3,000. Now, mind you, we've been spending so much money on my health at this point, but about $3,000 to get our home tested for mold. It was such a strain to our marriage. Again, like I said, he kind of at this point started to doubt my illness, thought the answer to me healing and getting better was to just get up in the morning, go for a walk, eat some food, and stop freaking out. And that would be the solution. And that was very emotionally devastating. So we get our home tested, and we never saw mold, ever. I mean, we had a beautiful new home that we bought that was completely renovated. So we had never thought anything of this. And it turned out that we had pretty high levels of mold behind a counter, in our bathroom, in our master, different parts and areas of the home. So it kind of turned out at this point that the longer I was in the house, which made sense, as I was feeling sicker and sicker, I was spending more time at home, not outside, not at work. I was just getting poisoned from my home every single day. The longer I was in it and unwell and on the couch, the more I was breathing in the mold and perpetuating the problem. So we had to figure out what was the next step. And through all of our counseling sessions, we had hours and hours of talks between my husband and I, what I would do. And we came to the conclusion that I would go to Europe to heal. My family lives there. I would get great care. I would have my family to support me, help take care of me, cook for me, eat clean food, go on walks with me. I wouldn't be alone every day. And on top of that, my health insurance through Germany, because I am a dual citizen, would cover a lot more things than it would here in the United States, based on the fact that I like to do holistic medicine. So it was definitely the hardest decision I had to make. I feel like I knew that once I made that decision, my whole life would change. I didn't know how, which will be part 2 of this story. But yes, I remember at the time, I was mostly concerned with him because through the 6 years that we'd been in a relationship, we'd never been apart more than a week. And the one time I did leave for that time, he had a terrible anxiety attack because he couldn't be alone. So I remember talking to him about that, and he said, you have to go. You have to heal. Go. I'll be here when you get back. I'll be fine. And after that, we'll never be apart again. So let's just do this and we'll get through it. And this is the best option for you. And I cried and cried and cried the whole week before this trip. I knew it was the right thing to do. I asked my doctors. They all said, you have to go. It's not getting better here. You have to get out of your home. You'll get your house renovated while you're gone. And I just cried and cried. I cried the whole drive to the airport. At the airport, I could not even get on the plane. Part of it was fear and anxiety. Like I said, at this point, I couldn't walk even 3 buildings down without getting exhausted. And now I would have to go through an entire airport by myself. The anxiety of being on a plane. I know a lot of us are scared to fly. I am terrified to fly, let alone an 8-hour flight with the worst anxiety of your life by yourself. Looking back, I feel like had I been in any other marriage or relationship, that person would have probably figured out a way to come with me. But it's kind of obvious now why that wasn't the case, and that's okay. But I just remember him saying when I left, don't worry, it's just a month. We have the rest of our lives to be together. Just go. So I did. So let's move on to my Germany healing. I was there for about 7 weeks. It was supposed to only be 4 weeks, but we extended it 7 weeks. It was incredible. It was exactly what I needed. I feel like had I not made that decision, I don't know what would have physically happened to my body, honestly. The plane ride was terrifying. Oh my God, it was so traumatizing. I remember waking up in the middle of the flight. I tried to sleep as much as I could, of course, but with the anxiety and stuff, that was very difficult. I woke up at one point and the aisle across from me, it was a middle of the night flight. The lights were on. The pilot was there. There were stewardesses, there were doctors, and they were carrying this lady who looked like she was limp and like non-existent to the back of the plane. And I was like, oh Lord, you are testing me. You are testing me. My anxiety came back. I was freaking out. We were only halfway through that flight. I was doing like so many meditations, and when I landed and got my suitcases and hugged my family, they immediately knew that something was seriously wrong with me. I looked pale, skinny, weak, exhausted, scared. I mean, maybe I'll even like put some pictures up on Instagram for my story, just so you guys can see my whole like progression of healing and how this all looked and some of the different therapies I used. So go to the Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast Instagram page. I'll link it in the show notes here, or you can go to my page, mandirose.1111, and there's a link to the Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast Instagram. I'll do a story highlight kind of this whole journey for you guys. So you can see it in photos. I know that just sometimes makes a lot more sense. So my family really committed at that point to doing whatever it takes. I immediately went to go see my family homeopathic doctor. She put me on bed rest immediately, 2 weeks off my feet, eat, sleep, repeat. That is it for 2 weeks. At that point, of course, I lost the rest of the muscle mass I had. And was just trying to gain strength so I could stay awake and repower my organs and my adrenals and all of that. I started physical therapy at that point to learn to walk again, to rebuild my abs and my core. So that was very interesting. Every other day, my grandmother is 86 years old. So her and I were kind of on the same page. We'd go to the grocery store and have to sit down halfway through, or we'd go for a walk and walk very, very slow. So it was kind of nice to connect with her in that way, which, as a 32-year-old girl, you don't want to feel like you're 86 years old, but we get through it. Let's see here. I ate all these organic foods, things from the garden, a lot of herbs, a lot of teas. I started going for walks in nature, which was so healing. We live in the country, so there is no big cities, no 5G, barely any Wi-Fi, no pollution. So just going outside and going for walks in nature was so healing, picking flowers and just the slow pace of life that I needed. My mom actually did come over at that time. My mom is German, obviously. That's why my whole family lives there. And we celebrated her 60th birthday, which was fun, but I was not able to participate in the birthday party and all of that. So there were definitely a lot of moments in my life during this healing journey that I had missed out on. I had not drank alcohol for 9 months almost at this point, eating a very clean diet, very strict, barely any socializing other than social media. I'm so blessed and so grateful for all the people I've connected with on social media. Other people going through similar health journeys, people who had overcome it, doctors, professionals, people giving their advice. I built some of the best connection with ladies through Instagram on this journey. So if you ladies are listening, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being there for me, for encouraging me, for sharing in my journey, and just the connection. I'm so blessed to have met you, even though we haven't met in person. Just know that without your friendship and your compassion and love that so many of you have actually sent me through Instagram and Facebook, it kept me going. It definitely kept me going, like I said, when I had no social life. And at this point now being in Europe away from my husband, I just felt like that social interaction of my life as being a social butterfly was just gone. And to all of you who kept in touch with me and messaged me, thank you, because that was the one thing that kept me going every single day. So things started to get better. I was journaling and meditating, laughing with my family, doing all the things, the right things. But inside, I just felt like I was dying still. A big part of my soul was so sad, and I could not figure out what I needed to do, what would bring me joy, what would make me happy, what would make me laugh again. When was this all going to go away? How much longer was it going to be? Like all these thoughts every single day in my head. And I missed my husband. I missed my husband so bad. I mean, we only spoke once a day, briefly when he woke up in the morning, text throughout the day here and there, but it just wasn't enough. I felt like he had completely disconnected from me at this point. He would get irritated, annoyed that I wasn't getting better. When I was down or depressed, it was like he was like, enough already. Like, aren't you better? You're paying all this money. And would make comments like, your holistic doctors just want your money. And, why aren't you getting better? And just very like degrading, unbelieving of me, not very supportive. And maybe he just was over it because this had been going on for so long, but I was the one living it. I was the one every single day living the trauma, and to have someone like adding to that and not believing me was just soul crushing. Even though I had my family and I had close friends, I just wanted his support. When you're married to someone, you believe that they're going to be the one to uplift you and always be your go-to person. And of course, they're the one that you go to with your complaints and your sadness. They're the one that you lean on, the one that you go to. And it just wasn't what he wanted. He wanted the fun, happy, peppy wife, the one who was the life of the party and funny. So it was very, very, very sad at this point. I just remember that when the 4 weeks was up and I wasn't feeling better, he was like, I think you need to stay. Little did I know what was actually going on behind the scenes, but he said to me, If you stay there, then I won't have to worry about you. It's not going to burden me. You need to stay there where you're safe, where you have your family. And if you come back here, you're going to add more stress to my plate. And I thought, okay, you're right. Valid point. Why don't you come visit for like a week or two? And he said, nope, I can't do it. I'm too busy at work. There's no way I can make it happen. And so I stayed by myself for another 3 weeks. And I'll never forget, July 1st, I woke up. So like I said, this started after our Europe trip in October the year prior. This is now July 1st. This has been going on for so long. And I said, this is the month. This is the month I am going to heal. I knew it. I felt it, whatever it was going to take. And I started waking up every single day in full on gratitude. Gratitude for the air, my friends, my family. I was just always thinking, anytime I get anxious, I would be like, nope, I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm alive. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm happy. And I would just say these mantras in my head all day, all day, all day. And it started working. I started feeling better. I started going for longer walks. I started being less anxious. Some pain in my body started going away. It was just like I was pushing myself to change my mindset. It was like that last piece of the puzzle, knowing I could do this, push myself. I can go for a longer walk. I can do this. I can do it. I just knew I had to. Enough was enough, right? So, yeah, I guess at this point, before I get to the worst of it all, I just want to update you guys where I'm at currently, because as I share the next part of this, you're going to be like, and most people are like, holy shit, like, how the hell did you go through all that health stuff and then this on top of it? But apparently my soul knew it was up for the challenge. So where I'm at right now with my health, it is March of 2020. Well, April now, of 2020. We're in the middle of this pandemic. I never thought that I would sit here and record my health journey of 2019 and how scary it was during the coronavirus outbreak, which is so scary and so terrifying for someone like me who has pre-existing conditions, who's been through some terrible situations with their health. I have got to say, when I get a cough, when I get a sniffle, when I get a fever, like I said at the beginning of this, I am triggered. I go into fear mode. I feel like things are going to go back to the way they were, that I'm sick. So it's constant mental battle to remind myself, no, I'm healthy, I'm safe, I'm healthy, I'm safe. So I still take my supplements, my vitamins. I get IVs and ozone therapy about once every other month, just kind of as updates. My blood work is coming back better than ever. Almost all of my symptoms are completely gone. I felt so healthy and alive the last couple months. So I feel like I'm in a really good place, and it's just always a constant journey. I guess I just want to leave with that, is that our health is a constant project. It's not something we can become complacent on. You know, you can go like a month or two over the holidays and drinking and indulging and enjoying things, but you're going to have to make up for that somewhere. And that's really the point of this podcast, Wheatgrass and Champagne, finding that balance, never getting too far into the indulging side that we forget how important our bodies are and how much we need them, and how vital nutrients and supplements and care, whether it's body care like stretching and fascia and lymph, or nutrition and food therapy, or exercise for increasing blood flow. Like we need to be doing regular things to keep our bodies healthy and safe so that we can enjoy all the finer things in life. So I'm finding that balance. I'm feeling so much better. And yeah, I ended up coming home from Europe at the end of July. I was not 100% yet. I would say I was probably at about 40 to 50%, going for walks, feeling stronger. I had not put on any weight. My symptoms were slowly diminishing, and the first task I had when I came home was to go check in with all of my holistic doctors. So Dr. Dana McGrady, Dr. Nairi, Dr. Lovett, my conventional doctor for blood work. So I had all these plans to go see my doctors, to check in with them. I was sent home with homeopathics to continue and really just work on my strength. So that is where I'm going to leave this part off. I guess really just to sum it all up, for anyone that is going on a health journey like this, the two lessons that I needed to learn looking back was, one, to ask for help, Do not be scared to ask for help. So if you are someone who is dealing with a mental health issue, whether you feel like you are depressed, I know it's hard to even describe what depression is. Sometimes you don't even know that that's what you are. You just feel like blah and a lack of life. You don't know how to find joy. You just are uninterested in anything. You just feel blah. Or anxiety, if you're anxious and having constant panic attacks, you feel like you can't live a normal life, you can't go outside. If you're having pain, just know that it's okay to ask for help. That was the biggest obstacle I had to overcome, was to look at someone and say, help me. I need your help. I need you to come over and visit me. I'm feeling super low. I need help cooking food. Could you pick up some food for me and drop it off at my house? I can't do it. Could you drive me to a doctor's appointment? I just can't do it on my own. I'm scared. Will you hold my hand? Calling my doctors and saying, I'm just freaking out. I need some confirmation. That was so difficult for me to do before my health journey. So that is a lesson that I have learned. It was a hard one to learn, but once I started implementing that in my life, things started getting better. And then the second lesson I want to really, really hit home for everyone is your body can heal. Never, ever, ever think that because someone tells you you're going to have something the rest of your life, or this is just the way it's going to be, or that's how it is, that is truth. Our bodies want to heal, and they want to repair, and they want to make it better. Yes, sometimes you can't be 100%. Sometimes you will never be 100% cured, quote unquote cured. But that does not mean that we are incapable of improving our quality of life or regaining the quality of life that we deserve. So I never took no for an answer. I dug and dug and dug. Luckily, I had the financial resources to do so. So just know that in future episodes, I will have an episode on finances and money and residual income and things like that, because I want everyone to be able to afford holistic medicine. It's a huge passion of mine to help people afford all these things that I talked about that I said insurance does not cover, because this is health. That is health. Without those, I don't know if any regular doctor would have looked for mold or tested me for things like a thermography scan or used ozone therapy or IV therapy. So just don't accept no for an answer and trust that your body can heal. So those are my two lessons. Ask for help, trust the body can heal. And I am living proof of that. And I'm always available to talk about what you're going through. If you want to share with me, if you want to ask me any questions, feel free to always reach out. I will put my email in the show notes, so feel free to email me anything. Connect with me on Instagram, mandirose.1111. I will be happy to guide you, share with you. If you just need someone to listen or ask questions to, I am always here. So thank you guys for listening to part 1, and click on to part 2 for the juicy, crazy story of events that unfolded when I got back from Germany and finished my healing and went on a roller coaster ride that to this day could probably be made into a movie. Absolutely insane. But I made it, and I'm happier than ever. So keep that in mind as you listen to that story. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Talk to you soon.